You're listening to CX Passport, the show about creating great customer experiences with a dash of travel talk. Each episode, we'll talk with our guest about great CX, travel, and just like the best journeys, explore new directions we never anticipated. I'm your host, Rick Denton. I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Let's get going. Today, we take CX Passport where it's never been before, to the African continent, specifically South Africa. You may not know it, but South Africa has an already vibrant and rapidly growing BPO call center industry. Today's guest, Clinton Cohen of iContact, has a front row seat to that industry, leading a company providing BPO services to a wide range of industries and geographies. I'm eager to learn more about the South African perspective today, and I'm looking forward to my chat with Clinton. Clinton, welcome to CX Passport.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And as we were talking before we hit record here, it is kind of interesting. I'm sitting here in North Texas where you have thunderstorms and heat and sweat. And I'm looking at you here in the video and you're in a jacket. So it's always fun to talk to my Southern Hemisphere counterparts.
Absolutely. Listen, the end of winter, looking forward to transitioning into spring, but in the Southern Hemisphere in South Africa, I think we've got winter for all of 3 weeks. So really looking forward to moving into the warmer.
Okay. Another reason for me to get down there. Well, so in the intro there, I did mention how South Africa continues to be a growing area for the BPO industry. Now, I suppose first I need to ask you just briefly define BPO for our listeners, but then help me understand what's driving South Africa's growth in this space.
Rick, BPO, by definition, is a delegation of services to an external provider that manages these processes against a set of defined metrics. That's, textbook stuff definition of BPO. Obviously, on a broader sense, where BPO sits in South Africa, it falls under our GBS, Global Business Service sector.
Okay.
And for that, it's providing services, to all business globally. I think to the second part of the question there, in terms of understanding the growth in the South African space, really lends itself towards our beautiful country to put it up there on the mantelpiece, but the first world infrastructure that we've got and the delivery of these BPO services to the global market. I think this is really all stemmed and come from a place where pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, not that we wanted to labor it too much, but certain businesses may have been apprehensive to outsource certain parts of their service.
Right.
Come along COVID, all of a sudden, organizations are pivoting their teams to work from home. And now people are starting to realize, well, my teams are working remotely. So, why can't those processes land, globally? So I think that's one part of the answer, but I think the second aspect in terms of the growth is, a hidden gem such as South Africa that may not have been on many global markets' radars or organizations' radars, is now coming front and center where, organizations are looking for those untapped gems such as South Africa to be able to provide great quality service into their market.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things you refer to as an untapped gem, and I hope we get to talk a little bit about South Africa, the country, as well. But I think too, one of the things that it sounds like South Africa benefits from, along with just nice geographic alignment. So I've talked to several of my European colleagues, and they've referred to how South Africa is nice, that it's at least in a close time zone, right? They're not flipping the world and flipping the day on its head by looking to folks on the other exact side of the world. But even there's a closeness to even the Western Hemisphere to some degree that can support there. But I know that you and I talked also about kind of just the population and the heart in the population and the people. Now, I know that when you're talking about this just rapid growth that exists in the industry, talent acquisition can be a challenge regardless of industry. But even so, inside of South Africa and inside of the BPO world, where you're really focused on heart of the customer, How are you going about talent acquisition with this great growth and making sure that you're bringing in folks that have that true heart of the customer?
Rick, that's it's an amazing question. In terms of talent acquisition, fortunately, South Africa has really a large, untapped talent pool of skilled people
Yeah.
who, on one hand, unfortunately, South Africa has a high rate of unemployment. The opportunity that presents itself in our global service sector is this is a wonderful employment sector to be able to reach into that untapped talent pool, find, select the right talent, and bring them in to deliver world-class CX into those delivery markets.
And you can tell I've got like 7 questions hitting my brain at the same time there as I stutter all over myself. But I'm thinking there's got to be ways that you go about really identifying it, because while there is this wide swath of population that BPO is a great opportunity for them, how do you go about making sure you're selecting folks that have that heart? Because not everybody necessarily has that heart of the customer. They might have a particular skill or something else, but it's that heart of a customer that's so important in a call center. What are some ways that you go about doing that?
To start that off, I think at the beginning, there's obviously always the digital play in terms of any recruitment drive. So, digitally, you're going to kind of reach out for talent to kind of, those are the job seekers looking inward, and they'll come through various different channels through those portals that we run. But I suppose the step layers further. Once those selected candidates come in, there's a whole host of assessments, benchmarking, to really drill into, find that top cream talent that you talk so much about, that, so much about the heart. It's so much wearing it on your sleeve, but delivering that excellence. South Africans as a nation has a really high level of empathy, and that's probably just that's running through our DNAs. When candidates come into kind of the GBS sector, it's through those assessments, benchmarkings, and tools that you're really drilling in to find where those candidates stand head and shoulders above the rest. And we have so much access to those type of individuals, so it's an exciting landscape for us.
Yeah, that's true. And you and I had talked about an article that I wrote several years ago called Hire Happy People. And it's that idea of hiring for heart and teaching for skill. Now, we all know that doesn't apply in all industries. I want those that are designing my aircraft wing to have skill. I don't care nearly as much about their heart. I want them to have engineering skill. But when it comes to things that engage right directly with the customer, that heart for the customer is probably the most important. So thinking about that, though, so once you're inside the call center, those individuals are the ones that are directly interacting with the customer. So that's the epicenter. That's where customer experience, customer service, that's where it meets up. And so how do you keep a frontline motivated? How do you celebrate and motivate that frontline as they're delivering that great customer-oriented service?
There's multiple ways, and there's multiple levers that talk to the same thing. So, I think first and foremost, we're an organization at iContact that doesn't believe in, we believe in paying living wages, so well above kind of market related. And I think first and foremost, that talks to employee satisfaction in terms of reward, remuneration, and what they're doing in the contact center. But, then going above and beyond and getting people to stand up with those excellence. Well, there's certainly the areas of gamification and leaderboards where, kind of employees rank against, and there's that internal natural competition of who wants to be the best. I suppose it talks to those who are at the bottom of the rung, never want to be at the bottom. So they, continuously want to drive their own performance.
Right.
But I think further to that, it's about the celebration. It's about celebrating the small wins. It's not always about those big, outstanding, wow achievements. And whether it's, acknowledgement, pats on the backs, whether it's quarterly certification and award sessions held within the contact centers. And then you can always further speak to financial remuneration and incentives above and beyond base package.
Yeah, there's a phrase that say, and sometimes it's better if I'm visually writing it out, but I talk about capital I incentives and lowercase I incentives. And capital I incentives that's the money. That's you're paying, and that's capital I incentives and any sort of financial reward. But lowercase I incentives are those exactly that, the idea of celebration, motivation, gamification, highlighting that really special moment and telling a great story about an employee and how they engaged with a customer in a particularly special way, or perhaps a customer challenge that was overcome in a special way. And then that sort of celebration creates this positive feedback loop of, if that's being celebrated, then I want to do that so that I can be celebrated. So
absolutely love it. And Rick, do you mind, I'm going to quote you on the capital I small because, it resonates with me. It rings true and I love it.
Oh, feel free. Yes, there is no trademark there. In fact, for all I know, I stole it from someone else. I don't think so, but who knows? I've been saying it for a while now, so I don't recall where it came from.
Beautiful. I love it.
So let's talk about that. So as you said, bottom of rung, top of rung, that sort of stuff. But even in general, people want to grow. We talked about hiring happy people, but then teaching them skills, because as you're serving clients around the globe in all sorts of industries, there's a lot of employee development that needs to take place. And so that's a key to building a really dynamic and customer-centered front line. How do you approach employee development?
Employee development is a continuous journey.
Yeah.
I absolutely get passionate about it. And, part of our group structure, and clearly defined across all our separate businesses, are the aspect of learning. Whether we're providing national qualifications through learnerships that our employees engage on to upskill, that's a certain channel that we encourage employees with certain tenure, with certain milestones, to embark to continuously improve, that meet standards, obviously based in South Africa, but just business knowledge, acumen, skill sets, that development. I think I'm, certainly passionate about bringing in talent, developing talent, even if that means at a certain point they're going to move on from the contact center onto better, bigger life experiences for themselves. What a wonderful gift to be able to support that through the development. And that skills knowledge is, happening whether informally through team leads, managers on the floors, coaches, trainers. There's that aspect, but then there's aligning to certain qualifications and standards that's really taking employees on that career path journey onwards to bigger, better things, hopefully mostly in the contact center. But again, if people are exiting to bigger, better things for themselves, that's a great achievement too, from our perspective.
Little change of pace here. Now, South Africa is a long flight for many of us. In fact, I remember in my younger days, it would be the longest flight in the world from the US, or those kind of things. Obviously, there's been some longer flights now, but I think of that and one day hope to get there. But with those long flights, with those long travels, it's clear that we need a little rest. So why don't you join me here in the first class lounge? We will move quickly here and hopefully have some fun. What is a dream travel location from your past?
Rick, I've got to do two, and I've got to first and foremost, for all your listeners, for all who follow, is absolute slice of heaven in the eastern part of South Africa. Is a place called Plettenberg Bay. It is the most gentle bay area. When October, the whales come into the bay, they bring their babies. It's pristine beaches. It's just as I said, a piece of heaven. If I take us out of South Africa and I take myself to my global, my personal favorite, and I'm going to go to a winter setting here for half a minute, would be the likes of Austria, skiing, pristine mountains, snow-capped. Absolutely love snowboarding, being out in the open and free.
Boy, I love this. So you gave us a beautiful beach vision. You've given us a gorgeous mountain setting. I like your dream travel location from the past. You've given me some dream travel locations now for the future, but what about you? What's a dream travel location that you've not been to yet?
there's an island, and many may know it, called Boerewors, part of the French Polynesian Islands. Seen it once in a movie, caught my attention. Absolutely see myself in a wooden deck stilt in the middle of the ocean, lying sunny. Would be an absolute dream, bucket list of mine. Love to get there one day.
Boy, it does sound nice. Absolutely does. What is a favorite thing to eat?
I've got to put forward what's called a Boerewors roll, which is my best description of a Boerewors roll is a South African minced meat with a very thin layer of skin encapsulating this, almost sausage-like, grilled on a barbecue. We call it a braai, and put in a roll with ketchup, mustard, grilled onions, probably found in ballparks, but that's more hot dog. A Boerewors roll is more meatier than a version of a Vienna hot dog. So that will be a South African dish that I've got to flaunt again with our destination. And I think two others of mine in terms of favorite. If you asked me this as a kid, my staple diet was spaghetti bolognese. Maybe it was just the way my mama made it. And as I've grown up with a quiet taste, and got to give some credit to my beautiful wife, would be oysters, Tabasco sauce.
Oh yeah,
something that I've definitely acquired in time.
Very, very nice. That's right. Those all sound good. Now, I want you to say the first one. It sounded really good, but it's completely new to me. So what was the first thing you said again?
So the first one is called a Boerewors roll.
Boerewors roll. All right.
A Boerewors roll. I try to give the description well.
Oh, yeah. No, it sounds delicious.
South Africans are going to be laughing, but it's an absolute staple on any barbecue in South Africa. Besides for the steak or the chops or any of those kind of things, you're having Boerewors on a barbecue.
Nice. Well, I hope someday to go see this beautiful bay that you're describing, and then have a Boerewors roll sometime. So let's go the other direction though. What is a thing your parents forced you to eat but you hated as a kid?
What I loved about my parents is they never forced me, but forced would be the strong word. Yeah. But let's realign it. Cauliflower and broccoli as a kid were never my favorite. Never wanted to eat them, and always kind of managed to leave them on the side of the plate.
Funny. Yeah.
Fast forward today, I've got an appetite for it, and I absolutely enjoy it. And interesting how I watch my kids do what I did. So thanks very much.
Broccoli has come up often on the show in that question. And I've also had the same answer but I like it now. It is funny how our tastes evolve. So going back to travel, let's close out of the first class lounge here with not including your phone. What is one travel item you will not leave home without?
First and foremost, the passport, but let's move from phone, passport. Let's get on. For me, it's all about my pillow, my cushion. If I don't have a good night rest, tomorrow morning I'm grumpy. And what a better way, whether it's my travel pillow or whether my actual pillow, depending on my duration of stay abroad, it's an absolute must travel with me and gets pulled along with most places I go.
Clinton, we know South Africa, like many countries, has opportunities for social impact. And you and I have talked about how you hope to position iContact to be a place for that impact sourcing. Help me understand what you mean by impact sourcing.
Rick, there's many levels of impact sourcing, but at its true base, at its true heart, impact sourcing refers to disadvantaged, disabled employees that really don't have access to a formal market. Earlier, I used the term, South Africa being this, hidden gem. For us at its base level, whilst there's certainly access to skilled talent in the formal market, there's the absolute hidden gems from an impact sourcing who just, whether it be through financial means, transportation means, just living outside of the cities, can't get access into the formal job markets. That's what we refer to about impact sourcing.
So it makes sense to me. So that's good. So it's this, how can our sourcing have an impact? But it sounds there's clearly some work to be done there. So how do you go about doing that? So even if it's aspirational, let's say that even if you haven't made it there yet, what's the journey to getting iContact to where it is that place of impact sourcing, that it is expanding the opportunities of those outside of the formal job market and providing those paths for growth and opportunity?
It's a fantastic question. Absolutely passionate about talking. Today in South Africa, our industry bodies, really have created and developed for the labor market these portals that speak to impact sourcing,
okay,
that enable disadvantaged, disabled youth in untapped markets to be able to register themselves on these portals, that all of a sudden open up this world and access for them into the labor market. That's on a formal front, and those have been established over the last couple of years. I think then there's always the informal drivers that come from iContact, where if we want to go set up in some of the more rural locations and kind of have open days for recruitment and interviews, it's such an empowering and humbling experience to be able to see people who haven't had access and who absolutely blow you away at an interview stage, for that heart, that culture of what they want to display on a global stage.
That is so true. And there are so many structural barriers that exist in South Africa. They exist in the US. There are these barriers that are in play that it's going to take active push through those barriers like you're describing. So not just like the portal is one layer, but I like how you took it that next layer. But then we physically go out into a space, because for all we know, they have no access to sign up on a portal. But instead, hey, we're here. This is what we've got. Let's talk. And then that goes back to that. Another barrier that exists as well. You have not had 4 years of BPO industry experience. Well, who cares? If you've got a heart for the customer, we'll teach you that BPO experience. And I like that spirit that you're providing there.
Absolutely, and that talks to that skills training that we'll give. We know certain programs require certain levels, but again, there's an absolute baseline, and I think the main driver for us, around impact sourcing, is that corporate social responsibility to provide above, basic wage, that living standard wage to all our employees, that not only changes their lives financially, but they take it back into their communities and it uplifts their communities too. And that's that full circle that just you absolutely see being driven through employment creation through impact sourcing.
Yeah, I like that. And it only because I have so many other things I want to ask you about would we keep going, but that'd be a great thing to close on, right? Just talking about how sourcing and how BPO industry and all that can really have some impact on that sourcing. But you're doing this on behalf of your clients. You're doing this on behalf of the customers that you serve, not just the customers that are on the other end of the phone line, but the clients of your company. And I know that one thing that is particularly unique about a BPO is you can collect customer insights. You're there on the front line, and those insights help your company improve. But you also can use those insights to help your clients improve. So how do you drive both of those internal closed feedback loops? So you've got a loop for your own company, and then you got a loop for your clients. How does that work for you?
The value that we see coming through, obviously for our own business, and being on the front line, you're getting the data raw. You're getting those experience from the agents, raising particular queries, raising patterns. You're seeing it in the AI driven behind speech to text. You're seeing it coming through in all size, shapes, and forms. And what does it do first and foremost? Obviously, your coaches, trainers internally then bring it back and upskill and train the frontline workers to be better, do better, perform better. Mm-hmm. The ultimate drivers, which are really great to close the loop there internally. And I kind of say this to, any of our clients who, whether it's their first time outsourcing or, it's usually to the first time outsourcers, but if they're expecting to outsource certain tasks or or areas, and there isn't a fundamental connection on a continuous basis, engaging with one another, we're going to get all this data and we're going to tell them that these are all the problems that exist or the challenges that exist. We think this is the best way to resolve it. And it's through that collaboration together with our clients that works. But what I was trying to highlight is the downplay. So that's the positive aspect of internal knowledge coming into us and closing our loops and coaching and training internally. The collaboration with clients on that process and holding up those mirrors. Maybe they don't know that there's logistic issues coming, but we've got 45 calls today all around failed deliveries. So as an example, those are the great things you see on the front line. That true closed loop with a client is really about that collaboration and journey together, whether it's through listening to calls together, whether it's through providing that data and insight back to them, and having that partnership approach in terms of how we together are resolving those particular issues, challenges, concerns. Lots of wins too there.
Yeah, and a theme that I heard through there is a process, a disciplined approach, right? It can't be something that's ad hoc, but rather this is how we engage with you, client. We absorb these insights. Hey, I love the call listening. Big fan of that. I always use that with clients. And the idea of, hey, let's sit down and listen to calls together. Because it is amazing how a report can say one thing, but if you just hit play on a call, the impact that exists there. So good to hear how you've developed that with both your internal and with your external clients. Now I'm going to do a complete pivot here to close us out. And I want to go back with kind of thoughts on perspective, taking us sort of closing out on the travel thought. So I'm an American. And so I think of my world as domestic and normal. But to you, someone who's traveled to the US, my world is international and different. So tell me more about your perspective on travel, how it shaped you, what you've experienced from travel, and just take us home with thoughts on travel.
Rick, obviously being privileged enough to have traveled around the world, what I absolutely love is that global perspective that I've gained through those travels, be it in Austria or the United States. We'll use the United States for now. You're quite right. It's still foreign for me. You all sound a bit funny.
Well, that's just me.
Yes. No. Well, we get told we've got an accent, but to the point, there's lots of nuances. So yes, whilst South Africa or myself personally, there's a lot of Western cultural alignment and there's a lot of similarities, but the smells, the tastes, the feelings, you travel a little bit European and language sets change and cultures change and food changes. Cultural, you go a little bit more east, and the Eastern cultures, there's their ways and cultures and, how people engage in respect. I love these learnings, and they've, absolutely helped open my mind or transform me into a way of thinking that I have an insatiable hunger for more. I love the nuances. I love the learnings. I love the cultural heartbeat that's different in every single different country that we visit.
I like that a lot. Cultural heartbeat. That may be the title that you may have just given me the show title right here at the end. So that's brilliant, Clinton. So Clinton, I love it.
I've got to give you the credit, because there were a couple of times in the conversation today where we talk about the heart of the customer, we talk about the heart of the employee, and wearing our hearts on our sleeve. That's the cultural heartbeat that came true.
Well, Clinton, thank you so much. If folks want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn a little bit more about you and iContact?
Rick, our website is www.icontactbpo.com. All our contact information's there. Reach out to us. We would absolutely love to explore anyone's requirements, field questions. I'm open, available to have discussions. Absolutely love sharing in this space. And again, thank you for the opportunity today.
Yeah, and Clinton, it's been wonderful. So I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for allowing me to have step one into the African continent. I look forward to having many more conversations as I expand my global, or how about this, as I expand my cultural heartbeat and gain more CX wisdom as I get exposure to more voices from around the world. You've provided some brilliant insights. I enjoyed really talking about kind of talent acquisition and the growth of the industry and getting a better understanding of the South African BPO space and how you focus on heart. It's been great talking about some of the travel experiences, and certainly I have now had at least half a dozen and maybe more reasons for me to get to South Africa, and I look forward to the opportunity to do that someday. So Clinton, brilliant conversation, enjoyed the heck out of it. Thank you so much. Enjoy your remaining days of winter, and I wish you a wonderful upcoming spring.
Thanks, Rick. Looking forward to barbecuing your Boerewors roll in Plettenberg Bay when you get over this side of the world. Thanks for the opportunity to connect today.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. Make sure to visit our website, cxpassport.com, where you can hit subscribe so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, you can check out the rest of the EX4CX website. If you're looking to get real about customer experience, EX4CX is available to help you increase revenue by starting to listen to your customers and create great experiences for every customer every time. Thanks for listening to CX Passport, and be sure to tune in for our next episode. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.